All right. Here we go again. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the network. Now, last week we did a review on this $10 Five Below knockoff NES clone with a little CRT screen, and I gotta start off by saying that video completely blew up out of the blue, and we got a whole ton of new subscribers from that video, so if you are new to the channel, welcome. But the one thing that kept coming up in the comments for that video was, what is inside of this $10 Five Below little retro gaming box? And to be honest, I was quite curious too, and to give full credit where credit is due, we did have a commenter on that video by the name of Shinobu Hanada, who did end up taking this thing apart and made a full write-up in the comments for what is inside this thing. But I know that a lot of people are more visual learners rather than, text-based, so I figured, all right, let's go ahead and we'll take this thing apart on camera. So for those of you who are interested in knowing what's inside of this thing, we can get you a more in-depth and closer look on video. So without any further introduction, let's go ahead and tear into this thing. Okay, so let's start off with the little, fake Nintendo looking thing. We'll go ahead and it looks like there's just two Phillips head screws, so we'll undo those real quick. Now, I'm suspecting that there isn't going to be much in here because, it is pretty light. And are my assumptions correct? Let's see. Yep, there is absolutely nothing inside of this thing other than a dab of hot glue and it almost working like a strain relief for the controller, which, I don't know why you would need strain relief, and to be fair, this really doesn't do much in terms of relieving strain on the cable, if I'm being honest. It just goes straight through. So literally, the little Nintendo is just purely decorative. So we'll go ahead and we'll put this thing back together real quick, and then we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at what's inside of this controller. Now, I'll probably leave the CRT for last because, that's the biggest item, and most likely will be the most interesting part of that, but let's go ahead and we'll tear into this controller. Now, I'm expecting this to be pretty similar to an actual NES controller, so we'll probably just have a main board, a couple of, the cheapest membranes that you can get, and then, our button contacts, and that's pretty much it. But, maybe we'll get surprised. Maybe there'll be something fancy in here. I doubt it, but we'll see. Okay, so we start off and we have a whole bunch of, are these posts broken or no? They appear to be like little rubber posts that are in here. That's really strange. That's not gonna do much in the back of this in terms of, protecting any strain being pushed down on the controller, but it does look like they have a pseudo strain relief in here being just a knot, and then it actually is held in with more screws, which I'm surprised. This is fairly secure for it being, only $10. So yeah, we're seeing exactly what we expect. The world's thinnest little, we still have a screw on there, but we have the world's thinnest wire inside of this thing and a bunch of membranes and our D-pad and stuff. So yeah, it is pretty much set up exactly like a real NES controller. Obviously, the quality of this is a lot lower than a real NES controller, but it's similar enough in concept. This is a pretty standard controller main board. You'd see this in pretty much every console that has ever come out, is, that sort of method for button inputs, except for the PS2. The PS2 did it a little differently, but, PS2 is just built different. Anyway, let's go ahead and we'll get this thing back together, and then we'll move on to our little CRT. All right, and now our little NES controller knockoff is all put back together, so let's go ahead and move on to this screen. Now, this thing is going to house most likely everything that this thing does. The screen, it'll have the battery terminals, we'll have the little main board for controlling or storing all the games, but we'll start off by taking the batteries out of this thing because I actually left them in there after that review because I was going to do a little bit of further testing, but I never really got around to it. So if you plan on getting one of these things, because it's super cheap, I would highly recommend not leaving batteries in there because there's probably a pretty high chance of these corroding. The first order of business is going to be to remove the two screws that are located in both of these holes, and unfortunately, I don't think this screwdriver will fit. So we need to get ourselves a backup screwdriver Oh, geez. Something a little more akin to this so we can actually reach down into these holes. Yeah, this one works a whole lot better. So we'll go ahead and we'll get these 2 screws out. All right, so it looks like pulling this thing apart is going to be as easy as can be. All we have to do is tug on the front bezel of this thing, give it a little bit of pressure. That should disengage the clip on that side. And then do we just keep pulling and it pops right out. Okay, that's super easy. Let's see, what do we got? So we have the screen here, and it looks like it's connected to, I guess, the main board, which is held in with a couple screws. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull those out. Now, can I just pull this board out, or will I have to apply pressure to the other side? Oh, yep, a little bit of pressure, and that thing seemed to pop right out. Oh, and I also lost the battery piece. Okay. All right, make sure you don't lose the, well, not the battery, but this is the power switch. So it looks like this is our power board. And is that pretty much all this is? Yeah, it looks like this is pretty much all it is. So you have your on and off switch, your USB-C in, and then that goes from the battery terminal, it looks like. And then it ends up just going to the front of this thing, which my guess is the board that houses all of our, you know, like our EEPROM and then anything else that has to do like screen control boards and etc. And then we have this pretty decent sized speaker up there, but it looks like we have 2 more screws on this board, and then we should be able to see the full inner workings of this device. So we'll go ahead and we'll take these 2 screws out and then see exactly what we are working with here. But yeah, that video did extremely well when it came out last week, and I do have to say thank you guys all for the support. And you know, again, to any of you who are new, welcome to the channel. You'll expect to see a lot more tutorial based stuff here, you know, homebrew, working with setting up our 4 cards, you know, modding consoles, the works like that. So you know, if that stuff is sort of up your alley, and the occasional review, of course, you know, be sure to stick around. But let's see if we can get this thing off without completely breaking it. Can I push this straight through, or is that just not gonna want to happen? Okay, so it looks like no matter how hard I try, I cannot get this front bezel off of this knob. I have no idea what's holding that thing down, and to be honest, I don't really want to break it. So we're going to try our best to avoid taking this top part off, which doesn't look like it'll be too difficult, seeing as we can remove the screen and then see through the front little lens of this CRT exactly what's going on in the back. So we'll just go ahead and we'll unclasp this ribbon cable back here real quick so that we can get our screen out and to the side. All right, so now that we got that latch up right there, we should be able to slide out our TFT screen, and there you go. We can get a nice good look at this. Now, there are no markings whatsoever on this thing. Actually, looks like there's a teeny tiny little model number right here on the ribbon cable, and that's pretty much it in terms of identification for this screen, unfortunately. So if you did want to use this in your homebrew projects, it may be kind of hard to find, you know, the data sheets for it, because I mean, we just don't know what this is. So that is the screen. We'll go ahead and we'll set that off to the side. Now we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the main board through the front of our little CRT so that, you know, we can get a better picture for what's going on inside of this thing. And so pretty much from what I expected to see, you have basically these 2 little pieces of foam that are used to hold our screen in place. And this one's not even in there straight, which I guess, you know, you can come to expect for this thing being under $10. And then it looks like we have our EEPROM chip, which according to Hanada, who I trust did the research on this thing, this is an 8 megabyte non-reprogrammable EEPROM that is on this thing. So unfortunately, there is no ease of loading in custom ROMs in case that was something that you wanted to do on one of these devices. And then we have a big old glob of resin on there that I'm assuming is protecting some sort of the circuit, probably to, you know, translate the ROMs and then actually play it. It's most likely housing our emulator. And then we have a little crystal in there along with a bunch of resistors and a couple switches for our reset button. And then, you know, again, underneath this knob, which unfortunately I just cannot get out for the life of me, and I don't know why it's like locked on there, but that is our potentiometer for controlling the volume of the CRT. And then up at the top, you can see we have our 2 wires that end up connecting to our power daughter board, you know, to give the thing, you know, some juice. And then we have another 2 leads down at the bottom, which connects to our speaker so that we get audio out, along with the wires up at the top that come from our controller. So that's pretty much the entirety of this device. As you can see, it's pretty much the same thing as those AliExpress handhelds that I showed in the other video, but it's repackaged in this case case to look like it's a little console with a CRT. So that's pretty much it for this. I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing put back together, and then we'll wrap things up. All right, now that is pretty much everything there is to show for this $10 retro gaming console from Five Below. So hopefully this video did it justice in giving you a better understanding of what exactly there is inside of this thing, and if there's any parts that you can, you know, kind of salvage or mod or, you know, change for yourself. I know that one comment on that previous video was maybe repurposing this screen for use in a Pip-Boy, in case, you know, you had a 3D printer, and I happen to, you know, have made Pip-Boys in the past using a 3D printer, but this screen is so tiny in comparison to, you know, what's in the Pip-Boy. You basically have to put the whole little CRT inside of there in order for that thing to work. But anywho, with that, if you enjoyed, remember to drop a like and make that subscribe button glow so that you don't miss any future content. And if you have any suggestions for things you'd like me to take a look at, be sure to leave it down in the comments, or you can pitch it at our official Discord server. Link down below in case you're interested in stopping by. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.